Okay, so in this tutorial, I am going to show you how to make your website respond and change based on the type of device that is being used to view the web page. For example, maybe it's on a tablet, or more likely it's on a phone, and so the browser width will be different, and so we need our web page to change. Okay, so we don't have much here. We just have some text and a picture. So let's start by giving those some styles to change them. So first of all, I have all my standard stuff in here. Now, one thing, remember again from my previous video, you've got to have this here for your web page to be able to change and I guess you could say mold itself to different device sizes. So here it says width equals device width, initial scale 1. So you need to copy this exactly, okay? And you need to have this in your head tag. So you want to do this exactly that way. And this is the viewport. The viewport could be a browser on your desktop computer or whatever. You know, it could be a browser in your phone, on your phone. So the first thing we're going to do, I created a div here, and so let's give this some basic. Let's put this. Oh, one other thing. We are going to create a menu that is especially designed for mobile devices. But okay, so here I have this image strip. I want it to go all the way across the page. And here I have a text strip. I want it to go all the way across the page. And I want this to be able to work on phones and tablets, etc. So here, with the image strip, let's do this. A strip, if your native language, I know most of my subscribers do not speak English as their native language, so I try to kind of adjust the way I speak to some degree, a little bit. All right, well, let's give this width, of 100%. We want it to go the full width of the browser window. And let's give it a padding of, I don't know, 20 pixels. Now we had that title here, the picture title. We want to do something with that. Okay. So let's give it a width of 100 pixels. Now, margin left, we want to center it. We want it to be centered, right, in the middle. So we'll put auto. Now we can do that because it's got a width. If it doesn't have a width, if your element doesn't have a width, margin left auto and margin right auto will not work, okay? It can only, this auto property will only work, auto means automatic. It will automatically adjust the left and right margins equally. But your browser won't know how to do that if the element itself doesn't have a set width. So we need to give it some kind of set width. All right, so that'll space that out. Okay, then I had that image box. And we also had the logo image itself. So, all right, our image box is here. Okay, here's the image strip. It's going to go way out, all the way across the screen. We want it to be going from this side of the browser all the way across, okay, taking up 100%, regardless of how wide our browser window is, okay? Now here's our, let's see, what are we gonna do here? Okay, we want to create that thing, a div class image box, and we're going to put our image inside it. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing with this div that we did with the title div. We're going to give it a set width, and then we're going to space it equally on the left and equally on the right. So we need to give that some kind of width. And let's give it the same width as the image. All right, well, let's say, I don't know, 634. Okay, margin left, auto, margin right, auto. Okay. And now we're going to make our logo image the same width as the box, as that containing box. And so height is auto. So now remember, in my previous videos we discussed how to naturally scale an image by setting the width or setting the height, as the case may be. But here we want to do it with width. Okay, we want to do it with width. And then it will automatically change based on the width. It will automatically scale it. So let's see where we are there. Okay, so far so good, at least as to the picture and the title. Now, if you remember, I had in the previous in one of my previous videos in this series, the HTML series, I showed you guys how to create a box shadow. Again, these videos build on each other, so you should start from 1, go to 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up. So I created sort of a standard class that I can apply across the board to various different images that might appear in my web design project. And I call it standard. You know, there's some shorthand here. I called it standard picture spruce up. Okay, so standard, I just abbreviated it. And what is spruce? To spruce up. If your native language isn't English, to spruce something up just means to make it look a little nicer, to add some details, to give something some refinement. So if we remember, we can give an element 2 classes if we want to do that. And so we're going to do that here. We've got class logo image. We're going to hit a space, right? So there's going to be a space in between the second class we add. And so if we refresh the page, yeah, you can see how now it's got kind of a shadow. And as far as, well, let's give that title margin top 15 pixels, margin bottom 15 pixels. That way we can, all right, now it's got a little bit there. Okay. Now, in a moment, you'll see how we'll adjust this for screens that are like a tablet or a phone. Okay, now to speed this up, I'm just going to copy and paste the styles for the text right in here. So with the text, I gave it also width 100, padding 40, and I put text align center, so it kind of will center itself. Width 500, auto, dashed, and a little bit of padding. So let's see what we get there. All right, that's good enough. Now, let's say someone is looking at this on a phone. Uh-oh, you can see how the browser, when the browser gets to about 450 there, 400 like a phone, this is not good. This is a problem, right? It would be terrific for almost any browser, normal browser, it's going to be fine, right? But then if you get in a small tablet or a phone, uh-oh, there's a problem. All right, so what do we do? All right. Here is the key. Okay. Oops, it isn't. All right, so here it is. This is what is called a media query. And again, a query, if your native language is in English, a query is to ask about something, to inquire or request information. So what sort of media? A screen. Okay, so here in this part right here, this CSS style tells the browser tells your web page and your layout to ask the browser, hey, how wide are you? Okay, so now here we put max width 700. You don't have, some people, I just did this because it'll be the fastest, easiest way to make our site mobile. Because if it's above 700, we could put in here 900. You could put in lots of different values. I just put 700 pixels because that's going to cover basically all your tablets and your phones. And I'm going to make it so that it'll be no problem. Now, a lot of times what you'll normally see is people will have one like at 1100, and then down here they'll put in their styles here. You'll understand this in a second. And here they'll put in maybe 762. And 762, this is based on certain specifications. It's not that big a deal. First you'll just get the basic idea. Let me get you the basic idea, and you'll understand this later. It will come to you. And here, then they'll go down here at 450. You don't have to be this detailed, right? You're providing for every possible kind of tablet or phone, etc., right? All right, great. So what would happen is when your device gets to be more narrow, if it's less than 1,100 pixels wide, then these new styles will apply. But then when it gets even skinnier, it gets even smaller, 762, some new styles will apply. And now when you're down to your little phones or your normal size phones, it's even smaller, 450, right? All right, well, we don't need to go into that much detail. I'm just going to put this as 700. And if you design your site trying to make it, relatively simple, good but simple, you can do it this way. You don't need to create too many media queries, okay? But that's, it depends on your website, how complex it is, etc. So now what we're going to do, we saw that the image was too wide, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, all right, let's do this. What we want to do now is let's take our image box class, and now we want the width to be 270 pixels, okay? And we want the logo image to also be 270 pixels. All right, and this text strip, we want that to be, well, that one is going to work either way. That's going to work either way. But let's reduce the padding. Well, let's put the padding to 20 pixels. Okay. And as far as our text container, let's set that. Now remember here, we had a text strip, the way we had an image strip, goes all the way out across the browser window, no matter how wide it is. Now we have our text container, and we're going to give it a border. Now we're going to need to change that one too, right? We're going to need to change the width. And we're going to leave the height alone. We're not going to touch the height. So that if we leave the height, you can see here that as it stands, whether it's a large desktop browser or if it's a phone, no matter what happens, if we leave the height alone, the height will adjust itself based on the content, right? So if I put a bunch more text in here, it will naturally get longer and longer, or it will get higher and higher. The height property will naturally increase, okay? But we need to change that width. Let's give it a width. How about 320 pixels? And let's give it let's give it less padding, because this mobile screen, we want to save some of that. So let's refresh. If you need to do a hard refresh on a Mac, Shift Command and then the R. Again, if sometimes it won't reload properly, but all right, you see that? So bam. Okay. So you can see now that our elements have changed based on the browser width. It's pretty straightforward. And in the next video, I'm going to show you a good mobile menu that won't require JavaScript. Later, I'm going to show you some JavaScript for mobile menus to make them look really good, because the point we want to get to a point where, okay, let's say we're here. All right, let's say we're here, and then we go, whoa, down here, boom. Then we can get a really nice menu, something like this. All right, so this is like on a phone, right? This is as if you were on a phone, and down here we could have a proper menu down below that really, and believe me, this particular website, it looks pretty good on a phone as well. So we won't, in the next video, we're not going to build a menu like this one, because we need some JavaScript to do that. But, well, actually, there may be some convoluted ways of doing it without JavaScript, but we're going to wait on that part. But in the next video, we're going to build a menu like this, just with CSS and HTML. Okay.